What's the game plan for the Australians to keep the legend Dalhausser out the game?
Well, right away, I don't want to give him too much credit. You want to go right at Phil Dalhausser, see if his blocking game is on. Don't try to avoid him right away and hit balls out of bounds. Really go head up and see if he's on today, because sometimes players have off days. So don't give him too much credit out of the gate, but be very careful with your opportunities. The Americans aren't going to give you any real freebies, no unforced errors. So you have to capitalize when you have opportunities on your side if you're Australia.
Well, they already met this season in Moscow at the three-star event in May, and the America really showed the Australians how to play the game. The Americans beat them 21-12, 21-9 in under 30 minutes. You called it earlier, Dane. They would love a quick match here to save some energy going into tomorrow's quarterfinals for the men. But all tied at 1-1. Service errors cannot be afforded by the Australians. Everything needs to be on track if Australia are to give the USA a run for their money here. Here's Dalhausser with service.
Oh, like clockwork. Dalhausser not getting a stuff block right there, but what he did get was a nice soft block. Nick Lucena putting him right on top of the net, and that's what you do when you have a partner that is 6'9" tall, and Phil knows exactly how to get it to the sand.
Targeting Mchugh with the service. Here's Dalhausser on the attack again. Cross court, beautiful spike. Such a calm, cool, and rhythmical arm swing from Dalhausser. Shows very little emotion on the court, and he's almost like a poker player, Dane. You don't know whether he's up or down, upset or angry.
Yeah, and that's the mystique of Phil Dalhausser. Quietly goes about his business, always doing his talking by his performance on the court. Very soft-spoken player, but so dangerous and so intimidating for the last decade.
Good shot. Very important for Chris Mchugh to start showing the Americans that he's got some attacking play. That's his partner, Schumann, wearing number 2. But the spike comes from the big Aussie number 1. That'll help his confidence. Here's his partner, Schumann, serving. Lucena, set from Dalhausser. That's a great save from Schumann. Dalhausser goes over on 2. Schumann cannot contain the ball on the second attack from the USA. They maintain their 3-point advantage. Look at the scoreboard, total of 7. That tells us it's a side switch. And every time we get to a calculation of 7, 14, 21, 28, the players will swap sides just to make sure there's no advantage from either the wind or the sunlight here at the Red Bull Centre Court. That was a great set from Schumann, wasn't it, to allow Mchugh to power that one home.
Yeah, what Australia has to do is kind of just get in a comfortable groove right there. That time Mchugh taking the pass and trying his hand against Big Phil. He squeaks it right down the alley between the block and the antenna.
Service error from Chris Mchugh. That's disappointing, frustrating, having come off the back of such a good shot to put the ball into the net. 6-3 for the United States of America. Dalhausser, who won the World Championship gold back in 2007, but with a different partner.
USA 7-3. They're kind of jumping all over them right now. You know what I liked in the first play of the game is how the Australians kind of mixed things up, went over on 2. Anything to try to avoid that right there, the big block of Phil Dalhausser, really getting it done. Head, eyes up way over the net right there. Not a lot of options to go.
Great save from Nick Lucena. That was Schumann's biggest shot. But the ball is pushed out of play Valuable point on the board for the Australians.
Yeah, that ball just out of bounds. And like I said, the Americans not going to give you a lot of unforced errors, but right there, maybe some pressure from Australia.
Oh, look at that ball almost sit on the net for what felt like an eternity. And that is a great play. Chris Mchugh will be delighted to have come out on top against Dalhausser at the net there.
It's hard to squeak the ball in between Dalhausser, but right there, Mchugh makes a beautiful play. And how about the roll by Schumann? There's Nick Lucena, can't put it away with a high shot, and then finally Australia terminates the play.
Oh, absolute commitment at the back of the court from Damian Schumann. Has no choice but to send the ball into the sky to keep it up. Here's Dalhausser on the attack. Rolls the ball off the side of the hand, down the line, 8-5. USA 3 in front, but credit where it's due, Dane, for the Australians. They are fighting for every ball.
Yeah, they're going for everything, and this is a perfect example. Complete commitment, complete sacrifice of the body by Schumann to keep that ball up in the air. You just never know when that play is going to happen that's going to turn things around.
Another good shot from Chris Mchugh, 27-year-old from Adelaide. His partner, Schumann, only 29 years of age from Melbourne. Quite possibly stars just starting to mature and find some quality to their play and quite possibly make their mark on the World Tour. Keeping the pressure on the Americans, that's for sure, Australia, and it's good to see. Mchugh serves Lucena, trying to keep Dalhausser out of the match here. Oh, he gets there with his hand, but he doesn't get the direction on the ball. It goes out of play. Point for the USA.
This team from the United States, they started playing on the American AVP Tour way back in the early 2000s, won their first tournament in Austin, Texas in 2005, then went their separate ways. Phil Dalhausser, of course, playing with Todd Rogers. There's an ace serve by Big Phil. But yeah, while with Todd Rogers, just absolutely dominated. The highlight, of course, being the Olympics in 2008. And then they reunited in 2015 to make a run for the Olympic Games, finishing in 5th place. Would have loved to do better than that, but a reuniting team, reunited after a decade of playing, is something you don't usually see.
It's a nice story. Two old buddies went their separate ways, and then they decide to give it one last chance. Fair to say they're both in the twilight of their careers, Dane, and they're just looking to wrap up an amazing legacy with their best buddies. It's a nice story, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. Right there, Australia, they're going to call a timeout. But Phil and Nick, just great chemistry. Get together and work together so well out on that court. And it was so nice to see them win their first American tournament together. You know, a lot of teams split.
1 or 2 plays here. We'll get a couple of blocks, a couple of digs. The gap will close.
Well, you heard it right there. A couple of blocks, a couple of digs, and the gap will close. I like that theory by Schumann. He's absolutely right.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, do your best with it, mate. If it's there, I'll go for it. Oh, jump set your back. Do something sick.
Well, interesting words from the Aussie dugout there, and I think one thing that we can glean from those words, they're enjoying themselves out there. They're reveling, playing some of the hottest players in the team, in the hottest conditions we've ever seen in Austria. But the Australian duo determined to enjoy this moment.
Yeah, I love it right there. Really positive attitude, relishing the moment. It really is something special, not only to play in a world championship, but to play in an arena like this. Unfortunately, there's a shank out of bounds, so another ace for Big Phil Dalhausser. But the Australians, you know what? They're only going to get better. They are late 20s, still have a lot of time for movement, but I like the attitude. I like the way they're competing.
Oh, good cover from Lucena. Dalhausser had no choice but to go over on the second touch. And Australia not expecting it that way at all. Smashes that ball right to the chest of Mchugh. Service error from Dalhausser. A little frustrating, he's had 2 aces. Now this next point on the board, pretty important. 14-7 or 13-8, because it takes us to the halfway point of the first set, a 30-second technical timeout. Damien Schumann serving Nick Lucena. That's been the Aussie tactic throughout this opening set. Lucena puts it away, or can Mchugh save this? Again, this has been the story of the Australian game. Absolute commitment. And Dalhausser just puts a little too much power on that ball. And 13-8, a technical timeout. Quick break for both players. We've actually received some information, Dane, that players can take water in the tech timeouts. They can take water in the side outs now as well. The FIVB getting a little concerned.
Side, okay?
Now, serves coming from the USA. All of them on the left side of the court. That is Chris Mchugh doing a great job to keep the dynamic Damien Schumann out of the game. It means Mchugh's got to play all of the attacking shots, or to be precise, 75% of them, Dane.
Yeah, he's getting a lot. Those blue dots are aces right there. He's had a few missteps, and why, may you ask, the United States going to the bigger 6'6" Mchugh? Well, he might not have the varied offense that Schumann has, and they might want to just deal with his power, because remember, Phil Dalhausser loves to block a guy who has a big arm and a big hit. So that is the game plan that the United States has opted to use, and so far it's working out with that 5-point lead at the technical timeout.
Yeah, and those 2 aces, there's the confirmation of the scores, 13-8. Now, here's Schumann serving, and it's a different tactic for the Aussies. They're serving the blocker. The defender, I should say, rather than the blocker. My apologies. Here's Dalhausser on the attack. Oh, and that comes off the arm of Schumann, which gives the point to the USA.
Nice big hit by the United States, but the highlight of that rally is this: the defense of Damien Schumann. He is absolutely everywhere on the court.
83.7 kilometers per hour. That's just around about 50 miles per hour. I'm not sure that we'll see the record of 114 kilometers per hour tumble here, but there's some big serves out there. And that's another good shot from Australia.
Australia showing they have the potential to really make it happen. They really jumped over the Americans in the last round, winning 21-8 and 21-11 over Crabb and Jake Gibb. Jake Gibb, a 3-time Olympian with all sorts of experience, so it just kind of goes to show you how they can really turn it up. It's a great look at the Red Bull Center Court Arena. This place really going off today in day number 8.
Yeah, the big team from Austria are on next after this match. It's already starting to fill to capacity. Service error from Dalhausser, but still with a 5-point lead. I think he's going to push his serves right to the limit in search of a third ace. And here's Schumann with service for Australia. 29-year-old out of Melbourne. Float serve to Dalhausser. Here's a change of tactic for the Australians, and they're made to pay so quickly. Dalhausser powers that down the line. 6 clear, the USA.
Every once in a while, you want to go over to Phil Dalhausser to see if he's asleep, because majority of teams go to Nick, and Nick knows that all day long. But Phil, he's always mentally focused and really ready to go. It's rare that you catch him off guard. Usually when you serve him, you realize real quick why you haven't been serving him the rest of the match.
Very good point you make, Dave.
Nice little tool right there by Schumann. Remember, he's given up quite a few inches. Schumann just 6 foot. Phil Dalhausser 6'9".
Well, 2 serves to Dalhausser, 2 quick and easy points or side outs to the USA. And now I think they'll probably go back to the Nick Lucena tactic pretty soon. Doesn't work for Australia at all. Great shot from Big Phil here.
Not only does Phil have a quick arm, we've mentioned it so many times before, he's such a well-rounded volleyball player, and that's what makes a great beach volleyball player. He serves tough, his hands are like gold, he's an offensive threat all the time, he can even play defense at times, and that's that intimidation right there. The big block at the net, the Australians trying to go away from it, and that's what I mean by giving the block too much credit. Don't hit it out of bounds. If you're going to lose a point, make him stuff you. Make him earn that point rather than erroring wide.
It's a good subject. Now, here's Dalhausser. They're getting closer to wrapping up this set. The Americans out of position again. Almost a good save from Chris Mchugh. Lucena puts the ball away, 19-11. Gelling together perfectly, as we've seen so many times from Nick Lucena and Phil Dalhausser, going about their business and the point scoring in this first set in a methodical way. Bit of a shank on the serve as well from Mchugh. Gets himself out of trouble with a very nice drop shot at the net.
Nice back set right there. And then looked like Phil might have jumped unbalanced, took his arms down, and the roll shot easy for the Australians.
Another lovely play from Nick Lucena. It's set point for the United States of America, 2012. Well, that plan to try and finish this off as quickly as possible is right on track for the Americans. Lucena serving Schumann. Schumann now on the attack for Australia. Lucena just a little frustrated to be caught out of position there. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, when you get to the point of having so many set points in a row, thinking maybe you're going to get an easy one, but so much opportunity here for the Americans.
Oh, that's out from Dalhausser. Third set point now for the USA.
You know, we saw this yesterday when the United States played Karambula and Rangieri. They got to set point, and then they kind of turned off the engines, kind of went on cruise control. They got to finish that thing to 21 and get out of that heat.
Great shot from Dalhausser. It's almost as if he heard you there, Dane, and said, enough is enough. Let's get this over. Let's get a 30-second break in the dugout and then get back to it in the second set. I have to say, domination from Team USA, the story of this first set.
Yeah, Nick, you really pointed it out well when you talked about the previous meeting between these two. 21-12, 21-9, a real thrashing, you would have to call it. This one decisive as well. Beautiful replay of Big Phil getting up, extending, getting some good contact on top of the ball, and he knows right away that that's down for the final point.
First set goes to the Americans. Phil Dalhausser, Nick Lucena at 21-14. The match stats, well, they're all sided on the American side because of the big scoreline for the USA. 14-9 blocks and aces, all in favor of the USA. Lovely shot of the Red Bull Arena here. Let's take a look at the Red Bull Virtual Arena and look at the spike placement of the USA. Blue balls unreturned, scores, points. And the yellow, of course, winners. Reds, the height of the pin determines how high the ball was returned. But you can clearly see the name of the game in volleyball is to go down the middle. Down the middle when they can cause confusion from either of the two players here with Australia seems to be the winning formula for the Americans.
Yeah, you're right. That middle is such a vulnerable spot, and you saw all those yellow winners deep in the court, proving that you don't have to go straight down. Go and use that entire perimeter when you're attacking.
Quick side out for Australia. They must win this second set to stay in the match and take it to a third tiebreak game. Immediate return from Lucena. Bounces that ball off the head of Chris Mchugh. Big number one blocker for Australia. Here's Dalhausser to serve. Again, opting to serve Chris Mchugh. Over on two is a good play for Australia. Nice shot from Schumann.
If you're Australia, you kind of got to regroup, take that deep breath, and try to challenge the Americans as much as possible. I like this serve right there by Mchugh, going for it right there, trying to rip it, because you can't just go back and forth with the U.S. They have too much experience. They're not making enough errors. You have to challenge them, not only from the back line serving, but attacking in transition.
Oh, Dalhausser shows his class and quality there. Beautiful at the net.
Look how he times this. There's a nice set to the outside, and it's a high shot. It's just that Big Phil going up to the penthouse right there. So high up the ladder, and then throwing it back into the court. It's so important to direct that block back into the court. You see the sweat coming off the bill of his Red Bull hat right there, just showing you absolutely drenched from the heat.
Well, there was a touch there, it looked like, from the power play of Chris Mchugh, holding their own in the early exchanges of this second set. Australia tying the scores at 3 points all. Schumann to serve. And Schumann targeting Lucena with the service.
By USA.
Here we go. The ball's hit. There's the reaction that Nick is talking about. He got that ball up. Here's a block off the arm. Definitely gets contact right there. And then the reaction, he was saying, he just reacted and covered. And the referee looked like he signaled a double contact. It was really odd. Nothing could be challenged there because that's not one of the challenge rules. And now Australia get a little trickler over the net. So things starting to turn, things maybe getting interesting here in the second set.
Now that's good play from Australia. 59 degrees Celsius, 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature. USA just need to refocus here after a lengthy exchange of disagreement with the referee. Another point on the board for Australia. Schumann taking the Aussies 6-3 ahead of the USA.
Schumann making a name for himself in the sand. He is everywhere on the court. You don't think he's going to get there, and then he has this surge of energy and gets the fist out. And there's the fist pump. Not only did he get that ball up in the air, but the conversion right down the middle.
Here is Schumann with service. Austria now with a good break on the Americans. Oh, look at that. Textbook technique from Lucena to put that ball to the far right corner of the Australian court and to slow down the Aussie momentum.
Really precise placement right there by Lucena, knowing exactly where to go. He's one of those players that has such a great feel for the entire court.
Right down the middle, as we showed with that virtual graphic earlier, is the place to score most frequently.
Yeah, especially when you're in transition and you're way off the net. Right here, Mchugh gets a set from Schumann. He's about 8 feet off the net. Blind, hitting into the court, go right down the middle.
Oh, but look at Dalhausser at the net. Quite spectacular.
That's why you never give up on a play. You see how rattled the United States was in terms of serve receive. They were all over the court. Still, Phil Dalhausser lays it out, keeps it in play, and then they reset their defense. And what happens? Phil gets another block.
Oh, well, the thought was there. Quite a creative attempt from Chris Mchugh, but he just pushed it a little too far out of play. And that three-point break that the Australians built has almost completely gone now. Lucena. Oh, they're in trouble here, Australia. Well left by Dalhausser, tying the scores at 7-all. Total of 14 on the board, a switch of sides. And now this is something that's been brought in, Dane. We've been told by the head referee and the FIVB that players can take on water on a side switch as well as a timeout or a tech timeout.
Yeah, and it's really important because you never want the players to be in danger. That's why these rules are instituted. There you see 240 kcals expended. I love that energy graphic there. It's measured by distance traveled walking around and the number of jumps. So monitoring all sorts of stats in this FIVB Vienna 2017 World Championship. Volleyball going to another level. Looks like a lapse of concentration for Nick Lucena.
If you look carefully on the back of each of the shirts of the players, they have what we're nicknaming RTBS. It's a real-time body sensor. This is one of our new developments of the sport, and it gives us some of that valuable information, such as the amount of distance traveled and the amount of calories burned. And I can assure you they are burning a huge amount of body liquid out there right now, but that's a big point for Dalhausser, just keeping the Australians within reach.
Another hustle play by Schumann, but it ends up on top of the net, and Phil puts it in the precise open court.
Dalhausser with service for the USA. Put that one a little too deep. His confidence is high with the serving, looking for his third ace. 10-8, the break is back with the Australian pair of Chris Mchugh, who now serves. His partner, Schumann, in the defense. Lucena sets for Dalhausser.
And that time going off the block of Mchugh. I mentioned it at the top of the show. Phil Dalhausser's got 36 career wins on the FIVB Tour. Nick Lucena, he has 7. And those are all big-time major events. Mchugh and Schumann, they both won an event this year in Shepparton down in Australia. That was a 1-star event. There's a little varied offense by the Australians, and the United States not tricked. Look at this Schumann all over the net.
Oh, he just put that one out. I have to agree with you, Dane. They play an entertaining style of volleyball, Australia, but you've called it perfectly. They've been around the block a few times, USA. They know when it's coming, how it's coming, and where and when to deal with it.
I like the varied speed, the offenses that Australia is using, and they're hanging tough here in the second set. It was an absolute blowout in that first set, but they're doing everything they can now to keep that ball in play and really attacking that middle of the court. Seems to be a real vulnerable spot for the Americans right now.
Yeah, Chris Mchugh, he's got a bit of World Championship experience against his name. We're in the tech timeout, halfway point of set 2. Australia with 11-10 advantage over the United States of America. Mchugh on the left of your screens there, he was 9th in the last 2 World Championships, playing with his partner, Isaac Kappa. Now, return of aces here.
Yeah, Australia's serve placement right there, going down the middle and to the right, all to Nick Lucena, even more concentrated in set number 2. Couple of aces, and that's allowed the Australians to really hang in here on this second set and put up a fight. If they can keep it going till about that, 17, 18 point and then have a surge, they might have an opportunity.
You called it earlier, Dane. Most teams on the FIVB World Tour, when they play this American duo, go to Nick Lucena. He knows he's going to get targeted. They're all trying to keep Big Phil out the play.
Yeah, when they reunited and got together, he knew that out on this tour, they were going to pick on him, trying to serve him as many times as possible, and he's okay with it. He knows how to deal with the Giants in his face. He knows how to put that ball away.
I must admit, I'm very impressed with Nick Lucena. He's very critical and hard on himself as well. We heard a couple of interviews that you've made down there, Dane, and he really does hate to let his partner down, Dalhausser, who serves. Scores are all tied at 11-all. Schumann sets Mchugh. Oh, and Lucena had his hands there, just couldn't contain the ball. A big power play from Chris Mchugh.
Big rip cross court. I mentioned this duo winning a one-star event this year, but Mchugh also, he got a third place in Klagenfurt a few years ago with that same partner you mentioned, Isaac Kappa, who they were very successful. To get a third in Klagenfurt,
big one.
That's a big one right there to get on top of the podium. He would love to increase that finish here in a world championship.
Almost there for Lucena. Advantage back with Australia at 13 points to 12. Now, Damien Schumann. Serves Nick Lucena. Nice back set from Dalhausser. Oh, and that just trickles over the net, but the right side of the net for the USA. Painful for Australia. Scores all tied again, 13-all. Now let's see if either of these teams has got another gear to find here.
Oh man, didn't seem like that ball should clear the net. Fortunate roll.
Another good power play from Chris Mchugh. Right between the two American players. Trading side outs. Both teams now at this point in the second set.
Chris Mchugh, he's a big dude. Strong and powerful. And right now, Australia putting all sorts of pressure on the United States. And if you're the U.S., you better look out right here. This team is not going to roll over, even though you tried to break their will and took care of business in the first set. Australia is doing everything they can to get back in it. Nick Lucena really going for it right there. There's the K counts for Mchugh and Schumann. 342 for Mchugh. 68 jumps already. Remember, he's jumping as a full-time blocker as well as an attacker. So the K-Cal starting to get up high for Mchugh. And we've already told you how hot it can be down there, that the FIVB has instituted a rule that players can get a drink of water on the side change. Try to make sure all the players are safe.
Good shot from Chris Mchugh, maintaining Australia's break against the United States of America. These real-time body sensors that we place on the shirts of the four players on court, bringing some intriguing data and information as the match unfolds. And it'll also give us an indication which players have got a little left in the tank and which are running out of energy here. Lucena with a good shot there down the middle of the Australian court, pulling a point back. But Australia still with the 1 point advantage.
They've played nice and consistent. Nothing spectacular, nothing crazy. Just doing their job, taking care of business. And this is exactly where you want to be in striking distance.
Dalhausser serves Schumann. Schumann on the attack for Australia. Lucena has it covered. Dalhausser over on 2, tying the scores at 16 all. Getting down to the business end of this second set. The Aussies must win it to stay in the match.
That shot didn't fool Nick. He puts it up, and look at the left hand of Phil Dalhausser, making it look so easy going down with the left. Almost looked like his strong hand. Smart play by Australia. Don't wait for Phil. If he's going to serve it that easy and run to the net, make sure you try to go over on 2. Keep him guessing. Wait too long and he'll be there. Strike early when he's not at the net. Australia could really use a point while serving to get a little bit of a cushion here.
Mchugh serves. Lucena. Over on 2 for Dalhausser, but this time Schumann's got it. It's not the best of sets, and Dalhausser puts it away for a second time of asking. 17-all. This becomes a real test for the Australians. Remember, they lost the first set 21-14. They have to win this the second to take it to a third set tiebreak. Here's Lucena. Float serve. Mchugh picks it up. Mchugh now attacks for Australia. Oh, and that is a lovely little shot. Big point on the board for the Aussies.
Nice set to the outside, and there's a finesse shot by Mchugh, pinpointing right behind the block of Big Phil.
$10,000 fans here to see Australia-America. And of course, in our next match, Austria versus Qatar. Scores tied once again.
It's back and forth. These two teams really exchanging points, and give a lot of credit to Australia. The 35th seed in this tournament got blown out in the first set, but they have regained their composure, and they're putting up a fight here.
Dalhausser's mighty block is there at the net. Couldn't come at a more important time, could it, for Phil Dalhausser? First big stuff block of the match. 14th of the tournament, my stat book tells us here. Service is long again from Dalhausser, all tied at 19-all. Real test of the nerve for Australia now. Chris Mchugh needs a big service to give he and his partner set point. Oh, well, he couldn't have got a better one in. And he's there in the net, set point for Australia. Centre court has been full of surprises today. And this could be another one.
So smart, serving, getting to the net. Look at him extend, arms locked out. And instead of the United States taking the advantage, Australia now can push a third.
Mchugh again with service. It's another brilliant serve. Dalhausser picks it up. Dalhausser attacks. And Schumann just about keeps the ball up. Schumann takes the United States of America to a third tie-break set. 21-19 to Australia. There aren't too many Aussie fans in the crowd, but the few that are out there are doing cartwheels right now. A remarkable turnaround from the underdogs. The 38-seeded team, Australia, take the third seeds from the USA to a tie-break set to 15.
And if you told me that's how it was going to finish, there's an 86-kilometer spike right here. A lot of power, a lot of heat. But if you had told me that Australia was going to come back and win that second set, I would have probably said not a chance, because the first three sets that these two teams have ever played, the United States 21-12, 21-9 in their previous meeting, and then the first set today 21-13. So for Australia to keep their composure and come back, it is something special right now. They will remember that set for the rest of their lives, and if they can win this match, it would be a monumental upset. Take a look at the match statistics. 4-1 in blocks, Big Phil Dalhausser, but the scrappy play of Australia was the difference. You know, the Australians stayed close, and what did I say? If you could stay close and then strike at the end, give yourself an opportunity, and that's exactly what they did. They stayed patient the entire set.
So here we go with set number 3. The decider will only go to 15 points rather than 21. There will be no technical timeout, but each team still can call their own 30-second break, their own timeout, should they wish. First point on the board now, Dane. It is important in this sprint third set to get off to a quick start and keep your focus in the early exchanges.
Yeah, any lacks of focus, you'll get yourself into a hole, which is very hard to dig out because time just runs out in a set to 15. It's too quick. And there didn't seem to be too tough of a serve, but maybe it had some extra movement on it, and Australians have some difficulty with reception.
Lucena serving a very short serve to Schumann. Now on the attack. Dalhausser gets a hand there, but Schumann tools that ball off the block of Dalhausser. Point on the board for Australia.
That's the way to challenge Phil. Go at him. Make him earn those blocks. Don't hit the ball out of bounds. Just challenge him. Smart play by Schumann.
Good joust at the net. Schumann came out on top, but Dalhausser makes him pay. I have to say, Schumann is on fire at the moment. He's all over the court with electrifying pace and speed.
And you said it, Nick. Good joust at the net. Isn't it surprising? Usually the lower player having that leverage of pushing up into the taller player wins the joust, and Schumann got it over, but the United States win the rally.
Oh, Lucena needs to get a hold of those cross-court spikes from Chris Mchugh. Don't get me wrong, they are fast and they are powerful. That's the third, possibly fourth time that Lucena has been in the right place but not been able to hold on to the ball. Side switch at 5 points rather than 7. That's because we're only going to 15 points total score, if you can be too clear, rather than 21. Schumann serves Lucena. Nice set from Dalhausser. Oh, and well left. Lucena feeling the pressure from Mchugh at the net there, putting way too much poke on the ball. Scores are all tied at 3 apiece.
I love how Australia's playing. They're playing as if they have nothing to lose. If you were looking at the paper, you would say this was a massive underdog. And the pressure lies now that we're in a third set on the United States.
That is a huge point. A great shot from Chris Mchugh. The advantage is with Australia at 4-3. And for the first time, Dalhausser shows a little emotion. And it's disappointment.
Great block right there, just trickling over the net.
Good play from Lucena. Ties the scores at 4 points all. Smashes that ball against Mchugh's block.
When you're undersized, you got to get creative. Sometimes you're not going to get always clean kills. You got to use that block. Sometimes bang it off him and out of bounds. Just like that right there, you get to see Schumann do the same against Big Phil. And right now, it's an interesting situation, similar to we saw Brazil playing Austria last night, where the Austrians just wouldn't go away. They were the 45th seed, and Brazil had to do everything in their power, and they won 17-15 in the third. The United States in a similar position, thinking, we've played this team before, and they made a lot more errors, and we beat them decisively, almost as they did in the first set. But now, the Australians, they will not back down. They're going 100% on every single play. And if the United States doesn't get some separation, this could come down to just one play.
Service error from Phil Dalhausser. Easy point for Australia at 6-5. I think you're absolutely right, Dane. They've treated this second and quite possibly third set a little too lackadaisically, the Americans. They just need to fire up a little more here. Dalhausser puts that ball out of play. Frustration is starting to take control over the American game.
They're definitely being challenged right now. I wouldn't say they're lackadaisical at all or complacent. It's just the Australians won't go away. The United States playing well, but they need to actually turn it up to another level as that ball is tooled off the block and out of bounds.
So they're getting fired up and trying to get his partner Dalhausser also riding on adrenaline right through the arms, right through the block. Good up from Lucena. But it's a point for Australia. The break is back with the boys in green and yellow.
Big hit right there, and Lucena is there. He just can't control that. He's got to scoop that up on his side of the net.
Another service error from Chris Mchugh. Disappointing, easy point for the United States. Well, another piece of information. The K-Cows 178, distance covered on court, 1.4 kilometers. That was from the RTBS real-time body center of Nick Lucena. Scores are all tied at 8-all.
Australia can't afford that. Here's looks like a routine pass, but that ball moves at just the last second, and Mchugh ends up shaking it.
Schumann picks up the serve, Schumann attacks. Oh, the hands are there for Dalhausser. Big block from Big Phil, and the USA take the lead.
And you see some emotion after that play from Nick Lucena. There is the block and the put away. There's a little fist pump. That's about all you're going to get out of Big Phil. 5 stuff blocks for the big man at the net. Looks like the Australians have called a timeout. They don't want this to get out of control. There's the block, Big Phil, and that man right there, Schumann, has had quite a match. Really impressive defensively, also challenging Big Phil up at the net. The United States, the last 3 points, and you don't want to give away those points in bunches.
We'll get it back.
Phil Dalhausser, 17 attacks and 5 successful blocks. You see, not a lot of talk going on between Phil and Nick. They know one another so well, such good friends on the court, off the court. They know what it takes, and after so many years of playing together, they don't need to really talk about it.
It's quite interesting staying at the team hotel throughout these championships, and you don't see a lot of communication. They seem to have this sixth sense as with regard to where the partner is, what he's thinking, where he's feeling, and how they're playing. That is a very important point on the board for Australia. Spectacular spike play from Chris Mchugh.
Mchugh unleashing right here. Nick Lucena's in the right spot, trying to defend the line, and the challenge is down the line. It's just really a rocket.
Oh, a little bit of a shank on the serve receive from Dalhausser, and he puts it into the net. Australia back with the advantage at 10-9. Canada knocked out the world champions earlier today on centre court. That was Saxton and Mchugh from Toronto beating Alisson and Bruno Schmidt, and we may see another big upset on the main court in just a short while. Oh, come on. Damien Schumann, with an opportunity to have a break on America, allows the USA to tie the scores at 10-all with the service error. Quick side switch.
Yeah, there has been some upsets. Remember in the round of 32 as well, the Netherlands, Van Garderen and Varenhorst taking down Simon and Vigil. So the #1 seed out, the defending world champions out as well.
Good shot again from Chris Mchugh, who can do no wrong on the Aussie side of the court. Right on the line there.
Perfectly placed. No room for error there.
Good call from Nick Lucena. And a very early call as well on that ball being out of play. All tied at 11 all. We're only heading to 15, remember, not 21. This is a third tie-break set. And we will settle it here. Here is Dalhausser serving again to Chris Mchugh. Set from his partner Schumann. The attack down the line, finding a very narrow gap between Dalhausser, the blocker, and the line of the court. But success for Mchugh again.
Well, Australia, they're bringing it every single time. We saw Mchugh rip that serve last, and it was out of bounds. Let's see how aggressive Schumann is. Going to Lucena, and there's trouble.
Oh, they're being outplayed here, the Americans. Schumann is all over the court with unbelievable speed, and Mchugh's power play is impressive.
Wow. It's hard to believe right now, but the United States is in a world of trouble. You could have never predicted this before the match. Great poke shot down the line, and the last 2 points in a row have gone to Australia and the United States. They're gonna have to come up with a big play to make it happen, because right now Australia's got that 2-point margin. They just need to
out here, man.
receive serve a couple times.
My ball not fast. One side out, we'll go to the little guy here, huh? Yeah, I'm serving the little guy.
So they've been serving Mchugh quite a bit. You just heard we'll probably go to the little guy after they get a side out here. And so Schumann will be expecting the serve, but first, the United States has got to receive serve and side out so they can get in position to serve Schumann.
Are we about to witness yet another big upset on the center court here? Dalhausser sets his partner Lucena. They get the side out that they predicted. 13 points all.
Nick, this is where that experience comes in. No coaches on the court in beach volleyball. And the Australian players take a sip of water on the side change. The Americans go straight to their position. They know they need to make a play happen while serving, and they need to do it urgently.
12-13, USA with service. This to tie the scores. It's a deep serve. They did go to Schumann. And their tactical switch pays dividends for the USA. This time Mchugh puts it out of play. They told us in the dugout that's what they were going to do. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, it was a smart move. Not sure why Mchugh wanted to go over on 2 in that opportunity. He needs to set Schumann. He's going to fake jump. Oh, wow.
Well, how about that? David and Goliath, and David gets the better of the big man, but Dalhausser is not happy, and he wants to tell the referee exactly what the problem is.
There's a net violation, possibly. Did Mchugh follow through and touch the net? That's the big question. This is one of the best jousts you'll see. That ball completely coming to rest. I don't think that he netted. It just was the longest joust I've ever seen, and it's a crucial point. It's been awarded to the Australians, but the challenge by the United States, they want to know if there's a net. Here it is.
No fault, match point, Australia. Match point, Australia. The number 3 seeds are going out here unless, and look at there, the next man on, Alex Horst, he's shaking his head. He can't believe it either. He wants to take a little glimpse at the Americans being tumbled by the 35 seeds from Australia, or can they save it? They tie the scores at 14 all. Lucena keeps America in the match.
How about that? Some aggressive play. And Mchugh, he's been blocking a lot of balls and getting his hands on some of those hits. Fearless, Nick Lucena.
You got to win it by 2. Good set from Mchugh. Oh, it's there! The block from Big Phil! Dalhausser down to the sand, and the tables are turned in a matter of moments. It is now match point USA.
A timely block, exactly when he needed it. And look at Big Phil, the emotion, you rarely see it. He wants this one badly.
Can the Americans settle it now? They have been pushed to the wire by Australia. This for a spot in the quarterfinals. Mchugh sets Schumann. Schumann on the attack. Gets the angle. Lucena picks it up. Lucena puts America. No. Mchugh. Good play from America. He's gone backcourt. Australia recompose. No, it's there. Dalhausser, the master of the net. The Beijing beast puts the USA into the quarterfinals. What a performance from Australia. The Americans pushed